1,000 goals gets brought up every time Pele's name is mentioned. Some people accept it, most people question it, but hardly anyone looks at where every single one of those goals came from. When Pele was 15, his youth coach saw enough to know he was different and pushed for Santos FC, one of the biggest clubs in Brazil at the time. Pele arrived in 1956 weighing less than 60 kilos. Most players his age were still in youth football. The coach put him into training with professionals anyways. He scored 4 goals in a practice match and the club signed him officially. 6,000 cruzeiros a month, a decent wage for a 15-year-old in 1950s Brazil, plus food and accommodation. On September 7, 1956, Santos FC beat Corinthians 7-1. Pele was able to score a goal during this match, his first goal of many. The goals Pele scored were not scored in today's game. They were scored in a different world entirely. There was no Premier League, no Champions League, no billion-dollar broadcast deals. Clubs made money the old-fashioned way: ticket sales, gate receipts, and if you were Santos, you toured. Brazil did not even have a national league for most of Pele's career. The country was too big and travel was too difficult. Football was organized by state. Santos played in the Campeonato Paulista, the Sao Paulo State League. It was regional, not national. To make real money, clubs traveled. Santos toured relentlessly: Europe, Africa, North America, Asia. 2 or 3 games in 48 hours, and opposing clubs paid significantly more if Pele was guaranteed to play. There were no substitutions in major competitions until 1970, no yellow or red cards until the same year. If a player got injured, he stayed on the pitch. Kits were heavy cotton that soaked up sweat, the boots were leather. There was no television coverage for most of it. People followed the game on the radio. This was the world Pele walked into at 15 years old, and this is the world every single one of those goals was scored in. Understanding what these matches actually were is key. A friendly is a match with no competitive stakes, no league points, no trophy. 2 teams agree to play, the result means nothing on paper, but the game itself is still 11 professionals against 11 professionals. A tour match is when a club travels to another city or a country and plays against local clubs as part of a scheduled trip. Santos did this constantly. They would land in a country, play 2 or 3 matches in 48 hours against professional clubs from that region, and move on to the next destination. An exhibition match is similar, sometimes arranged to celebrate a specific occasion or showcase a particular player. The occasion was ceremonial, the opposition still showed up to compete. The common assumption about all 3 is that they were casual, that nobody was trying, but the goalkeeper on the other side was still a professional, the defenders were still professional players, the matches were unofficial, but the players still wanted to win. Pele spent the majority of his career at Santos FC, from his debut in 1956 at 15 years old to his final match for the club in October 1974. He scored 643 goals in official competition across the State League, National Cup, Copa Libertadores, and the Intercontinental Cup. In 1958 alone, he scored 58 goals in the Campeonato Paulista. That record has never been matched in any state competition in Brazil, and it still stands today. On November 21, 1964, Santos played Botafogo and won 11 goals to 0. Pele scored 8 of them. In 6 consecutive matches in September 1961, he scored 23 goals. The Campeonato Paulista featured the best clubs in Sao Paulo state. The Copa Libertadores was the premier club competition in South America. The Intercontinental Cup put Santos against the champions of Europe, and Santos won it twice. Between 1957 and 1971, Pele made 92 appearances for the Brazilian national team and scored 77 goals. 43 of those came in competitive matches. 34 came in internationals classified as friendlies. That number held Brazil's all-time scoring record for over 60 years before being surpassed by Neymar in 2023. Of those 77 goals, 12 came at the World Cup across 4 tournaments: 1958, 1962, 1966, and 1970. 1958 is where he became a global superstar. He was 17 years old and scored 6 goals, including a hat-trick in the semi-final against France and 2 in the final against Sweden. Brazil won that tournament. He became the youngest player to score in a World Cup final, a record that still stands today. In 1962, he scored against Mexico in the opening match before a muscle injury in the second match against Czechoslovakia ended his tournaments. Brazil won it anyways, beating Czechoslovakia in the final. 1966 was different. Brazil went out. Brazil also lost to Hungary. They did not make it out of the group. He came back in 1970, 4 goals across matches against Czechoslovakia, Romania, and Peru. Brazil beat Italy 4 goals to 1 in the final. He scored in the opening goal with a header and set up 2 more. Brazil won their 3rd title and he was named the best player of the tournament. 3 World Cup titles and 12 World Cup goals. Santos toured constantly: Europe, South America, Central America, North America, Africa, and Asia. The goals Pele scored in these matches are the ones most people point to when they question the 1,000 figure. They were not official competitions, no league points, no trophy, and because of that, many don't count them. But look at who Santos were actually playing. In 1959, Santos faced Real Madrid, Barcelona, Internazionale, Feyenoord, Anderlecht, and Hamburg, among others. These were not local clubs or amateur sides. Real Madrid was the dominant club in Europe at the time, having won 5 consecutive European Cups between 1956 and 1960. Internazionale was one of the most powerful clubs in Italy. Feyenoord was a professional Dutch First Division side. These were the best clubs on the continent, and Santos traveled there and played them. It did not stop in 1959. Throughout the 1960s, Santos continued touring Europe and faced Benfica, Roma, Juventus, Atletico Madrid, and AC Milan, among others. In England, they played Sheffield Wednesday, Stoke City, West Ham, Chelsea, Aston Villa, Newcastle United, and Coventry City, all professional First Division clubs. In 1959, Pele was required to complete compulsory military service in Brazil. During his service, he played for his barracks team, the official Brazilian army team, and represented the army in the South American military championships against Uruguay and Argentina. Beyond his club and international appearances, Pele regularly played for selection teams and combined sides throughout his career. Think of these as all-star games, the best players from different clubs or regions assembled for a single match or a short series of games. These are the matches that fall into the gray area of his record and where the numbers vary the most depending on which source you look at. For the Sao Paulo state team, the exact number of goals varies depending on who you ask, and the gap reflects how inconsistently these matches were recorded at the time. Pele joined the New York Cosmos in 1975 at 34 years old. He was not coming off the back of a peak season at Santos. He came out of semi-retirement to resolve serious financial problems caused by bad business investments in Brazil. The North American Soccer League was not the Campeonato Paulista. When Pele arrived, he described the Cosmos as operating more like a college team. The fitness levels were significantly lower than anything he had experienced at Santos. The opposition across the league included sides like the Dallas Tornadoes, Hartford Bicentennials, Las Vegas Quicksilvers, and Team Hawaii. He scored 37 goals in 64 official matches for the Cosmos. But the full picture of his time there is more complicated than just the football. He was injured by a swarming crowd of fans in Boston and had to be evacuated on a stretcher. His role was as much a global ambassador as it was a player. He was required to attend American sporting events and do publicity engagements as part of his responsibilities to grow the sport in the United States. His final professional match was October 1st, 1977, Cosmos versus Santos. He played one half for each team. So how did Pele score 1,000 goals in football? Technically, he did not. His official club goals between Santos and the Cosmos sit at 680. His international goals for Brazil stand at 77. That gives you 757 officially documented goals in professional competition, a number that by itself would still place him among the greatest scorers the sport has ever seen. When you add the remaining goals from unofficial matches, the full career total sits at over 1,000 goals. FIFA credits him with 1,281, Guinness World Records puts it at 1,279, and Pele himself has claimed 1,283 goals across 1,367 matches. The difference comes down to a handful of goals from exhibition appearances that different organizations have chosen to include or leave out. The goals that do not count are the ones scored against the best clubs in Europe, in Italy, Spain, England, and in the Netherlands, in front of their own supporters, with nothing on the line except a reputation. The goals that do not count are somehow the most impressive ones he ever scored.